I've played a lot of different Iron Man accounts from Area Locked to Chunk Locked and even a few hardcores, but there's still one kind of Iron Man I've never really taken a crack at. So come and watch me as I fumble my way through this new adventure and see what kind of challenges are waiting for me. My name is Emperor Walnut and this is my Ultimate Iron Man series. Hey, how we doing everyone, and welcome back for another episode. So, the good news is I've been slaving away at the sand crabs to get my stats up, which means I could finally hit pest control and start working on collecting stuff for the costume room. I actually just ended up with the last game to get me enough points that I can start buying the full set. I'm going to start with full melee first, because that way I can at least wear it while I'm in pest control while I earn the other two helmets. Because once that's done, I'm probably going to get to a few skilling outfits like Graceful, Angler, and I'm trying to think what else. I know I had a list somewhere. I'll have to throw it up on screen when I actually remember that part. But I just need the body. And there we go. That's full melee Graceful. This took about, I want to say, somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. I think I was getting roughly like 80 to 90 points an hour on the intermediate boat. But I'm just going to get right back to it, honestly. I need to earn another 400 points to get the other two helmets. But the good news is, the sand crabs also dished out a ton of easy clues, so rather than sitting here and having to watch me roll through a bunch of pest control games, we have a bunch of casket openings to do, and when we're done with that, I will have the other two helmets, so let's get to it. Really quick before we get into the clue scroll stuff, for whatever reason, I just didn't record much of me doing Monkey Madness. Like, obviously, I had the Dragon Scimitar at the start of this video, and I don't know, I wasn't thinking about it, or I forgot to be like, hey, by the way, I went through all of Monkey Madness, and I died during it, by the way. I died to the Jungle Demon, lost everything I had with me, because Ultimate Iron Man can't go back in there, because it's an instance, so everything I had at the time, I lost. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in here real quick, because I did get the Dragon Scimitar, so now, on to the clue scrolls. And there we go. That's the last 400 points I needed. I can go buy the helmets. That wasn't too bad. Overall, I think this took... So when I was here for another couple hours, I think this only took somewhere between 12 to 14 hours. My math's probably bad on that. It usually is. But yeah, this really wasn't too bad. I just kind of burned a day off and got this all taken care of. So now I can grab my last two pieces for the Ranger helm. And... Oop, that is not the right guy. Where'd he go? There he is. And the Mage Helm. That's really awesome to have. Obviously, I'll have to come back here someday to get the Elite, but to have this knocked out right now and have these sets available is great. I hate to say, out of all three, the Melee is probably the one I'll use the least, just because like I can get tankier armor. I mean, the DPS increase is always great, and once I have a Defender, it'll go up a little higher, but I'll have to figure out what else I can do with these. I mean, obviously, the range is going to be extremely useful. The Mage... I'm not 100% sure. I do need to train my range up, because the nice thing is I have enough cash now I could buy full Mystics to throw in the box, which I am going to get, because I know full Void Mage might not always be useful compared to Mystics, because I know for certain content you want to like mix and match your gear. So I am going to buy that, throw it in there. The only sucky thing is I still need 66 magics to get in the guild, so I'm going to have to burn a little bit of this cash to get it anyway. But after that, it won't be too bad. But now that I have these, I'm going to take these back home. Trading this frog token I got, that'll complete that outfit. I'm also going to swap this out for Mithril Plate Legs, because once I get up to 65 attack and strength, I can go to the Warriors Guild and just keep that there, forever, so I can get tokens to get my defenders. But once I get rid of these, we are going to the fishing trawler, because I want to get the Angler's outfit next. Awesome. That only took 3 KC to get my first angler piece. This won't be too bad at all. Actually, this is a pretty nice mini game. I mean, I know you shouldn't technically leech when you do mini games, but I mean, you only have to fill your bar up to 50 points, fill a few holes with a swamp paste and then just kind of sit there. Also, I burned up way too much swamp paste because I didn't check beforehand that you only have to get 50 points, not 255. But either way, that's one piece down, a couple more to go. I think this is the only time I really wish I truly had a bank. You know why? I want to start stacking these old boots. So I don't know what tier of clue they come from, but I'm going to cross my fingers for that boot on a head you can get someday. And that's the angler hat, and that completes the set. That took me 73 trawler trips. I feel so bad for some of the people here. They claim to have been here for like 80, 90. One guy said he was here for like 200 KC or something, and he has like one piece. And the nice thing is, this leveled me all the way to 34, so I can slap this on right now. So that's another outfit down. I'm thinking next, as much of a grind as it's going to be, I'm probably going to go for either it's going to be Graceful, or I might just go get a little more gold and buy Mystic or something. I'll have to decide which one I want to do. I decided that I'd take care of Graceful next because not only is it one of the sets that's probably going to take me a little more time than the others to grind out, but the nice thing is by the time I finish it, even with the Canifis Agility Rooftop course, which is the best for getting Marks of Grace, but once I'm done with it, I'll have a ton of more agility levels racked up, which means I can do the Agility Pyramid whenever I need money because blackjacking isn't too bad, and honestly, it's still probably better money per hour, but it's just so click intensive, and I'm not going to lie, it actually kind of started to hurt my wrist, so I mean, being able to trade in those pyramids for 10k a pop is still going to be really nice money, especially when I need a little bit of quick cash. So, yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up Graceful and then move on to the next set. That was the last Mark of Grace that I need, and now I can go buy the Graceful Hood, and I'll be done with the entire set. I was able to get to 57 agility after this grind, so I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and grab Graceful or Desert Robes. I don't know if Graceful works in the desert. I'll have to look that up, but I figure 57 should be good enough to at least try the agility pyramid and see how I do because I'm really not too far off. All I need to do is get 66 magic, so that'll burn up a little more cash, but I can easily earn it back with the pyramid, and that way I could buy full Mystic, full Initiate, and then that'll be done and done with. And the only thing I have left to get that I can really think of is Shazian 5 armor. So, yeah, we're going to go hit the agility pyramid next. That wasn't too bad at all. I only ended up with 2 failures on the way up here at level 57. I'm also really close to 58, so yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this for a little while and maybe get, I don't know, 400k maybe so I can pay for the runes. I decided to switch over to getting the Shazian 5 armor instead. I actually think I'm going to abandon the idea of getting Mystic for now. I have Void Mage, so I'm not even really sure when I would use the Mystic because I can't think of a way I would switch it. Plus, I don't have anything else to switch it with right now. Like if I took D-Hide or a different melee set, so I'm going to go ahead and get the Shazian 5. I am still going to train my magic to get 55, so at least I have high alching, but after that, I will go buy the Initiate armor. I might even do Slug Menace so I can buy Proselyte, but that might actually be the last thing I need for the costume room right now, at least that I can store in it. That was the last kill, and that gets me all pieces of the Shazian 5 armor. The nice thing, too, is I rolled over to 60 defense while I was doing that, so I might go ahead and make the push for 65 attack and strength. That way I can get into the Warriors Guild and get a Dragon Defender so I can toss away the Black Shield into my costume room. But other than that, at least for right now, I'm going to go ahead and get 55 magic with these runes that I have so I can use High Alch. I am very tempted to make the push for the part of Recipe for Disaster to use up, or to get the other Gree-Grees, because getting them again, if I wanted to avoid it for now, would be ridiculous. Like, the whole process of getting these just kind of drives me nuts. So I might take care of that while I have the time. Other than that, I've kind of been looking at the other skills I want to work on, like Herblore for sure. I actually kind of thought about working on Slayer just so I can fight higher tier monsters, because I know I can get, eventually when I think it's 55, I can start making my own broad bolts, which when I get a rune crossbow from the Crazy Archaeologist would be great to have, because that'd be my best in slot ranged weapon for I don't know how long. So other than that, there are a few other skills I should just bump up a little bit. I was actually thinking about doing Hunter too, just because Implinks are going to be huge to get me a few things in the future. So I'm kind of going to sit on that and think about it, and I think I will go ahead and go do the 65 grind here so I can get my Defender. You know, I swear that just anyone that watches this series is going to end up with just a ridiculous amount of whiplash by how often I change my mind. So I kind of thought it over the past few days and I really rolled it through my head and I thought, I'm basically done with my first initial grind, which really came down to just filling up the costume room with all the stuff that I wanted. Like, yeah, I decided not to get Mystics, and I haven't taken the time to go buy the Initiate armor and just throw that in the armor case. But other than that, I didn't really have any major goals in mind once I was done with that, which is ridiculous to say because there is nearly infinite content I could do on this Ultimate Iron Man, whether it's, quests, mini games, diary accomplishments, even just getting my stats up, getting certain PVM content unlocked. So I really started to think about, what's another really big goal that like would really help out an Iron Man account, especially an Ultimate Iron Man, that would unlock a ton of content that would be relatively difficult to achieve, something I could really push for and dedicate a lot more of my time to. And I kind of kept thinking about it and thinking about it. And while, yeah, leveling up my Slayer would be nice because obviously it unlocks more content through lower level monsters, maybe even a boss or two, depending on how far I go. Yeah, it unlocks different gear like leaf bladed or broad bolts or stuff like that. If I really wanted to go completely crazy, I'd push it all the way up to, Kraken, let's say, and go get a Trident of the Sea from the baby ones. But that kind of just seemed far-fetched for me right now. I even mulled it over with one of my friends on Discord. One thing I definitely am still going to do is go through the Monkey King part of Recipe for Disaster. That way I can get all the other Gree-Grees, get that knocked out. And while I'm still going to have to get a new Gree-Gree and Amulet eventually, if I don't, just rush right out and do Monkey Madness 2, which I'm not going to lie, was my initial plan that I was thinking of for most of today. I wanted to get 69 Slayer, which is a requirement for the quest, which I haven't done Slayer in a very long time. I got 99 on my main, I don't know how many years ago, but I kind of forgot how much I hate this skill, to be completely honest. I know a lot of grinds on this account are going to be ridiculous, but this is one that, to be completely honest, I don't feel like doing right now. I don't feel like dedicating the time. I'm just kind of doing it right now while I yammer on to fill space while I think about what I wanted to do. But so, at least for right now, the whole Monkey Gree plan, off the table, not worried about it, I'm going to move on to something else. But what I did realize is, while I'm not going to do Monkey Madness 2, there is another huge set of PVM content that I can do that is relatively easy to access. I'd only have to level up a few skills and knock out a few extra quests. And by doing it, I'm also going to unlock some of the best in slot weapons that I'm going to have for a very long time. So, again, after speaking with a few of my friends on Discord and kind of bouncing ideas back and forth, I have made a decision on what my next big grind is going to be. And that grind is that I'm coming for Zulrah. There are actually quite a few reasons why I decided that Zulrah was going to be my first really big, PVM grind and the first boss I'd really like to start taking down as early as I can. Zulrah's loot table is a little mixed kind of looking at it. It's not terrible by any means, but there are quite a few items on it that I'm not sure how useful they'll be, but the uniques are definitely what I'd be shooting for, just like any Iron Man account. Getting a Toxic Blowpipe, a Trident of the Swamp, and even a couple of Uncon Onyxes would be huge. The first one, obviously, I'd have to get a crafting level for, but being able to get my hands on a Fury would be awesome. I mean, it would just be another item that's going to be best in slot for, the foreseeable future until I eventually did do Monkey Madness 2 to get a few Zenites. As far as the Blowpipe and the Trident go, the Blowpipe's another weapon that would just be incredible at a ton of different bosses. If I do Slayer, if I do the Fight Caves, which obviously I will do eventually to get my very first Fire Cape on the account. The Trident of the Swamp would be a little different because while I definitely would hold on to the Magic Fang as long as I could, the issue is I literally can't do a single thing with it until I get 87 Slayer and start killing Krakens to get a Trident of the Sea to combine them together. So eventually, while that grind would admittedly be kind of terrible, it would be a grind I would have to do to get an extremely powerful weapon. The Serpentine Visage itself, which you can make into the helmet, I don't know how many uses it has anymore. I know it used to be really popular, and it still is, especially because when you do bosses like Zulrah or Vorkath, or I think a few others, it makes you completely immune to poison and venom as long as it's charged, and its defensive stats honestly aren't that bad. So once I have other gear I can wear with it, especially like if I do melee, once I get, a fighter torso and some dragon boots and a dragon defender and, a few other things to help round out my melee combat, it'll be a really nice addition. Other than that, a few of the other items surrounding Zulrah and the content involved with it that I really want to get my hands on would be the Crystal Bow and Ivan Staff. The Ivan Staff, again, like the like Trident of the Swamp, would be a best in slot item for a very long time. The Iban's Blast is used by a ton of Iron Men for a lot of PVMing content, mostly because it's extremely easy to charge because you can either pay for it or you can just take it back to the well and charge it that way. You can even get it imbued so it holds 2,500 charges instead of 250. And the only downside is I'm going to end up needing 75 magic to have a decent chance at killing Zulrah. But again, with the Iban staff in hand, it's really not going to be that much of a problem. The other nice thing is the Iban staff is perfect for doing the Barrows brothers with. Now, granted, yeah, you can honestly you can do Barrows with some of the most jank setups you've ever seen because their magic defense is basically non-existent except for Arams. But even then, you just take a ranged weapon like the Crystal Bow, for example, in there, and you just completely melt him. So getting to be able to go do them and getting my hands on maybe full Guthans, maybe a few Arams pieces to really upgrade my setups. Oh, Carol's too, by the way. I forgot about him, which is crazy considering how much I farmed him in my old Altar Chunk series. But again, it's just another great piece of content that I can do, all because I would decide to do Underground Pass and unlock the Iban staff on my way to Zulrah. 75 range would be another stat that's definitely going to be needed to fight Zulrah with, and the Crystal Bow is nice for that because it's another weapon that's, in the charge category. I'm not going to have to worry about ammunition, and while at first, unfortunately, it does cost, I believe it's 900k for the very first time you have to recharge the bow. The nice thing is the cost goes down after that. I think after the 5th time, it only runs you 180k, so once I have all of that gathered up, I'll really be able to knock out a ton of PVM, not just Zulrah. I'll be ready for a lot of difficult content and, kind of pushing myself forward to unlocking better gear, better upgrades, different armor sets. The other nice thing is about Zulrah is that would give me my very first form of death storage, because when you die at Zulrah, everything on you gets put in that death storage, and it only costs 100k to get it back out, which, at this point for my account, what's 100k? It's 10 laps around the agility pyramid. I just go home, grab Graceful, slap it on, go to the pyramid, pay to get my stuff back, or I can leave it in there for a bit of time if I decide I want to go do a few quests that, have to send me to Intrana, or that I'm just not allowed to bring a lot of items with me, so it creates an opening there. The other thing is the stat requirements for pretty much every quest leading up to Zulrah through Regicide. I've already either knocked them out or they're so low I barely need to work on them. Even Roving Elves, which comes after Regicide, is the way you get the Crystal Bow and the Teleport Crystal so you can head up to the Taranwin area. Again, the requirements for that quest are basically nothing. I would already have most of them knocked out, and the item requirements aren't too bad either. I can either get them during the quest or I can, just run around Gielinor and gather them up real quick. The only downside is Taranwin being as big of a zone as it is. You do have to deal with, all the traps and all that stuff. You need to bring food, anti-poisons. I'm definitely not going to have stamina. So walking through that whole zone is going to kind of suck going back and forth. But in the long run, to unlock Zulrah, I'll totally put up with it. I honestly don't care. Getting to Zulrah, I'll admit, might be a little complicated at first because while I can take the fairy ring to the little agility spot, I'm going to have to double check, though. I don't know what level you need. I also don't know if it has something to do with one of the diaries out there. For some reason, I feel like you need to do a diary to unlock that agility spot. I really hope not, because if I do, that's getting to Zulrah would be really tedious. I would still do it, but it would just be a lot more difficult. As far as food and, dealing with the other parts of the fight, I'll most likely either try to unlock a higher tier of food. Like, for example, off the top of my head, I know Swordfish only heals for 14. And I know I can buy cooked Karambwans from the store in Brimhaven, so that might be what I'm dealing with. Again, that's kind of something else I can look into. I could also get cheesy potatoes from the Warriors Guild if I get, my stats up like I've been talking about. So, again, I have a few options in the way of that. The other thing I would need to prepare for is the venom that Zulrah infects you with. Now, the nice thing is you can actually use strange fruits to cure to cure the venom, and then I'll just bring an anti-poison with me to take care of the actual little poison, because the nice thing is with the spawn out by the ZMI altar, I think it's right out there in those little ruins, kind of like by the observatory, I can get as many super anti-poisons as I want out there, so that's just another thing I'm not going to really have to worry about. The only other thing that comes to mind is that if I end up getting anything, like let's say I get super lucky with a blowpipe, I get a blowpipe super early on, I will have to train my smithing up to get, let's say, mithril darts, to load into the blowpipe, because while they're not that great anymore compared to how they used to be, it is still a decent piece of ammunition to have. I'd also have to work up my fishing level so I can get Zulrah scales to load into the blowpipe, because I would have to imagine that while killing Zulrah does give you a ton of scales, I'd have to imagine fishing them is a little faster. I may be wrong about that though, but that's kind of just what I'm pushing for right now. I want to take care of all these different things, and it's nice because it'll help unlock a ton of content. It'll give me a real reason to boost a lot of my stats, not just for the quest, but for cooking and fishing and my ranged and my magic. It's just kind of all like a bunch of little unlocks to get me towards one big goal, which is something I really needed to help focus this account for me, because I was kind of running on empty there for a little bit. I was worried that, again, it's not that I was going to run out of anything to do. I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but pushing to get all these quests done and fight Zulrah, I feel like this is a really reasonable goal and would just really help progress my account. So I'm definitely going to get to work on everything I'm going to need for these quests to fight the boss and gather up all the gear I'm going to need. So the next time you see me, we're taking on the Money Snake.